There you go, just for fun. Good afternoon, everybody.
Mic 1, 2.
Good afternoon. I hate to break up the lunch. The show must proceed. Good afternoon. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So please continue on with your lunch. And while you're doing that, this is a special opportunity to have a lunch and leadership discussion. And so building on so much of the sharing that we've had this morning with Lev, with Dr. Howard, your first breakout sessions, so many exciting opportunities to learn. And here today for lunch, we get to hear from our leaders in enterprise technology today to talk about their kind of lived experiences and how they've approached leadership in their careers and how they look at and think about enterprise technology. And so as a kind of leadoff question for our panelists, and I'm just going to start with Dawn at the end, hope you don't mind, that if you wouldn't mind, just give it just a very brief, is it on?
Is it?
Hey, there you go. There you go. Just a brief introduction. And the first question really is a foundational one. We are all influenced by our first jobs, right? You all had a great first job? I used to bale hay, that was mine. So anyway, Donna, what was your first job?
Why, thanks for asking, Kyle. Actually, this is kind of fun because for whatever reason, this came up over the weekend. Friend of mine in San Francisco went to see the Ramses 2 exhibit, which is currently in San Francisco. So if you happen to be there, I highly recommend it because in 1986, that was my first job. I was in high school. The Ramses exhibit was touring North America. My mom's kind of a nerd, and she was like, hey, Donna would probably like this. I'd gotten lost at the Smithsonian Institution in a spot around the Egyptian exhibits when I was very young, so she kind of knew that I'd enjoy it. Went to the community college, took my first college course so that I could actually be a museum guide, and got to wear a pith helmet, which they took back at the end of it. But it was an incredible experience. They took over the convention center, this incredible display. I was in Jacksonville, Florida. Any of my Florida peeps there? And the river right there, who's from Florida? All right. The river there flows north, just like the Nile. So it was this really kind of interconnected, amazing experience. I got to meet all sorts of amazing people from the embassy, kind of opened my eyes, one, to the fact that a community college could actually help produce the people that would then be working at the exhibit. And I had a wonderful time.
Well, thank you, Donna. John, what was your first job and did it involve wearing a pith helmet?
No, but I wish my first job was as exciting as yours, Donna, but it's not. Before I do that, I just want to say it's really great to see everyone. Does everyone agree? Isn't it great to be out and seeing people? It's really great. But my first job, it wasn't very glamorous. I worked in a mobile home factory in Iowa, and I was part of the inventory control and cleaning, which meant that everything that couldn't be loaded off of a forklift, I had to take it off of a truck to load it, as well as I swept floors and I mowed grass. And I was 14 years old, so I probably broke some labor laws, but it was my dad's factory. But my question to everyone, because I really want to use this, and this, I'm not going to tell you the year because I'll date myself, but what do you think I made an hour when I was 14 years old? And raise your hand if you want to answer that question.
Are you giving away prizes?
Oh, we got Jorge right down here. That's nice toss, John.
Thank you.
All right.
I think you were making $2.75.
That's pretty close. I was making minimum wage $2.30 an hour, and I was making minimum wage at 14 years old. World was ahead of me. So anyway, your turn, Christine.
Christine, maybe you can. Maybe you made more than John did in your first job. That's.
I don't remember how much I made. This has been a lifelong professional issue for me, so just don't go there. My first job was teaching swimming, which was a pretty cool first job, really, and lots of fun. I learned a lot, and I have a whole flow thing going on, as some people in this room know, where that's really on my mind a lot, the flow of energy and water and so forth. And I went on to be a lifeguard, and then I eventually got my water safety instructor and taught lifeguards. And by the time I moved to Hawaii and realized that I really wasn't as strong as I thought I was with those waves, I sort of stopped that part of my career.
Oh, wow. As a swimming instructor. So yes, if anybody needs tutoring in swimming, it turns out that Christine is your person. Chris, what was your first job?
Similarly to John, I started working at 14. However, my father didn't own the places I worked. I don't know which was which. It was the same summer, but I found a job picking up range balls at a golf place so I could get free golf, and I think I made a couple bucks an hour too. And I also worked in a cards shop, and it gave me it enhanced my habit of collecting sports memorabilia.
Wow, there you have it. And Jess, what was your first job?
So I actually started working at 10 years old. I know. And how many people here had a paper route? Who had a paper route?
Oh,
how many people know what that means?
Two of them out there.
Yeah, you know what that means? I had a paper route at 10 years old, and I had that paper route for multiple years. It was amazing how a 10-year-old could be in charge of money, transactions, knocking door to door and talking to people, collecting money from them, and then arguing with them when they wouldn't pay, and then them getting upset because their paper was wet. I lived in Northeast Ohio, so I had one of those red flyer wagons. Do you guys know what those are? Okay. Anybody ever have to pack a Sunday paper? Sunday papers! Right. Right. Where does my tenacity come from? It's from dragging a red flyer radio wagon full of newspapers, because I did not live on the street that I delivered papers on. So I had to walk 3 blocks first and then deliver on the street that was multiple streets over, and then come back home every day, every single day. So yeah, that's my first job.
Well, terrific. Yeah. So, leading into a question for our panel here. So reflecting back on your career, and you can decide if that includes mobile home manufacturing or swim instruction if you'd like. But how has your approach to leadership kind of changed as you've moved through your career? And I'm happy to toss that to anybody who'd like to start, or we'll just pick somebody at random, starting with John.
Well, sure. Why not? Well, I think it's interesting is that with many of you probably in the audience who are probably in leadership roles, you kind of get thrown into a situation and not really know what you don't get the training, and so you kind of have to learn on the spot. How many have done that? So it's nice these days that we do have more opportunity for sort of leadership development. But in terms of maybe how it's changed over time, I think at first I was really more of a player coach. When I think about Nate Wilkin or Mike Sharkey or Jason Green, I had to sort of get into the place of, first of all, we needed more resources to get things done, so you had to sort of do that. And then it seemed to be that was the way to go. But then I think it was Jason Green, I don't know if Jason Green is here, he told me, like, John, you have to quit writing SQL. It was mandated. And so then I had to sort of switch gears into a leadership role of I don't know, we kind of morph in and out. I mean, everyone says, well, are you a servant leader? Are you, are you charismatic? What kind of leader? And I just found out you're really a different leader with almost everyone on your team, and you have a different relationship. And I think that's what I kind of found. And you kind of take the breadth of knowledge of leadership ideas, and you learn and then use them appropriately. So I think that's how I've moved. No longer will I write SQL. I promise, Mike Sharkey and Elizabeth Riley. I want to so bad, though.
Right, and thank you to Jason Green for his public service, getting John out of that work. The others on our panel, how has your approach to leadership changed as you've?
Mine's similar enough, I think, to yours. When I was a kid, I went to, this is definitely how many of you are Girl Scouts or have been Girl Scouts? Good, also good. So I went to Girl Scout camp every summer, and the counselor would always send a note home about, how did your kid do, basically. It's a little bit like a report card, but more. year after year, my mom literally saved these in a little closet she had, said, Christine is a natural leader, but she doesn't know how to delegate. So I'm one of those people that I really don't like to ask other people to help me, right? And I'm a 2 on the Enneagram, for those of you that know what that is, and that makes it even worse. And so what I have learned to do is invite people to work with me. And I really don't tell people. We've had some moments where I'm like, I didn't assign that to you. I didn't, but I did invite you. So that's a shift that I've made that kind of accommodates that difficulty I had with delegating, with my own style of wanting to be inclusive and invitational.
Thank you. Others, Chris, what do you think?
My first kind of real job, I was asked to be a product manager of a pretty small company that had about 20 customers, 3 of which were higher ed, and they asked me to build out the vertical market for what became Talisma's higher ed product, and that's Service CRM. And starting there, you're a doer, kind of like John was saying. So, you kind of have to figure out how to create, you have to figure out how to influence, and then you jump forward. I was at Honeywell for 12 years and I had 10 jobs there. When I started getting into kind of a director role, everything changes. But yet I came from the program and product side, and I was still kind of still doing, but you can't do when you're supposed to be leading. So I started realizing, all right, you got to shift, and you have to start understanding how to create space and how to teach. Learn about your people. What do they need? What are they missing on the job? Listening a little more, and then now here at ASU, very different culture than Honeywell, by the way, and now in more with this ET alignment organization in IT strategy, it's figuring kind of back to the space creation, but not for me to do, but for all of us to do, and figure out how to learn and read what the leaders of these enterprises are trying to accomplish, and build the relationships so that we can do something different and change trajectory. So it's just kind of it's a shift of how I operate, and that's a little bit of the story.
Terrific. Donna, Jess?
Sure. So for me, over the years, leadership will change every day. It's never stagnant. It's never the status quo, because you're going to be challenged every single day. Whether you're going to be challenged with a technology challenge, a human challenge, a personal challenge, whatever it is, you have to be able to forge through it because people are counting on you. So setting the example is super important, right? Do as you say, walk the walk, talk the walk, do it all, lead by example. That comes with having the skills, the knowledge, the experience, but also a lot of empathy and a lot of listening and a lot of encouragement. And I was told this has to be inspirational, so I'm digging in, Donnie. Sorry, am I okay? All right, great.
You're killing it.
She said she wanted her money back if we weren't inspiring, so I'm really trying hard. But leadership, guys, has changed over times from moving from a doer to a leader, but it also has to be extremely inclusive, because leadership is not a sole activity. And so you have to remember you're part of a team. And being a leader of a team is just as important as being a team member and being a team player. And so those are the things that have changed over time. And it's really important that whether you're a servant leader or not a servant leader, you do need to put your team first. It's not about yourself. It's about the greater good. And that's the mentality you need to have.
Good. It sounds like that foundational training of carrying the Sunday paper
Yes.
paid its dividends.
Yeah, I still have like a knot right here in the
Oh,
shoulder.
okay.
Yeah.
Donna?
Feel a little bit like this is a serpentine draft, and I got first draft pick, and so now it's like coming back in the end. And I don't know how to follow that up, Jess. That was beautiful. I love this question when you sent it to us, and really thought, like, okay, well, how has that changed over the course of my career? And if I think really early on, when I was an individual contributor, smaller teams, I was always trying to figure out where's my highest point of contribution. I want to contribute. That's the word I led with. I didn't lead with the word lead. I don't even think I thought about the word lead until I was something in my late 30s. And then it was because other people were using it. And I was like, okay, all right, let's lean into that. What do you mean? But I was always looking for, like, what is it that we could do better? What's that improvement? So as a early stage technical writer, like figuring out what templates could we be producing that would make this easier in the next time? Like, where could we innovate a process? Where could we try something new and see if it works better than what we've done in the past? So with each role, I was really trying to figure out, like, what's the set of stuff that I see where I think this would be helpful, and then leading with trying to be helpful.
And that's a perfect setup actually for our the next panel question here, which is, kind of calling back to Dr. Howard this morning. And if you have an opportunity to see Dr. Howard speak or his writing on leadership, one of his key leadership principles has to deal with being a student of leadership and constantly learning and innovating. And so as you think about, again, your career, your approach to leadership, what is your method or your approach? How do you become a student of leadership?
I'll go first. Always be open to learning from your teammates. I have learned more from the people that work with me and the people that work for me than most of the people who are leading and guiding above me. It is super important to have relationships, critical, in every facet, at every level, because it takes a village. It takes a community. It is not lost on any of us while we used to be the UTO family. We are now the ET family. And we use that word strongly because we're all in it together. It takes all of us. So it doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter what your education is. It doesn't matter where you went to school. It doesn't matter who your parents were, because all of us here together have to pitch in to accomplish the goals that we need for ASU. So it's my perspective.
Oh, terrific. Thank you. Who wants to follow that? That's a tough one to follow. Donna, did you want to go after Jess? Oh,
Yeah, Jess, just volley that right on over here. Okay, I'll take that, Jess. No, I'm not as good a catch as Jorge. I'm going to take this with a real pragmatic. Maybe I'll go pragmatic. I'm pretty studious. So I do actually study. My dissertation was looking at principal investigators on campuses to understand when they did something that had a leadership and innovation quality and what is it that led to that success. Because I was really curious about how universities get really good at this. I actually studied it, and I still do. I'm very purposeful to think about who are the folks that are either adjacent to the work I'm doing. So right now, I've got all sorts of security intelligence that's coming from great minds in that space that prior points in my career I wouldn't have had. So I'm curating to really think through whose voices have I a chance to really learn from, and really deliberately thinking about that. Almost every quarter, I'll kind of go through and figure out, have I learned as much as I can from the sets of folks that I've been looking? Could I be looking someplace else? I'm really pretty disciplined about trying to actually do the study part of your question.
John, you're ready to go.
I wish I could say I was disciplined. I actually look off of Donna's test, so because I'm lazy. And the number of leadership-related books that I've bought over the years, it's just buying me time that I've never read. So, I wish I could take that time. So, I wish I could say that, that this is going to be the panacea for everything about leadership. I think the biggest things that I've learned is have great mentors. Have mentors that you can look at, study their style, see what they do right and what they do wrong, and sort of then take that behavior and sort of apply it to yourself. That'd be mine.
Some of you know that before coming here, I had not been living inside of an organization for most of my career. I was a therapist first and then a consultant second. And as a consultant, I had an opportunity to study lots of leaders because I was usually consulting to the leader, an HR leader sometimes, or a CEO. So I got a chance to sample a bunch of different leadership styles. And the people that I saw, especially people that had an impact long term, were the people that could sort of integrate everything these folks are saying and have it be real for them. Like they're coming from their own authentic connection to what they're doing, to what the purpose is and of the work, but they're also really intentional about connecting with other people.
Sage wisdom about connecting with other people. Chris, can you?
I don't know about, well, I guess I could talk about that, but where I was going to go with this, if I can inspire anything about any of you, is realize that don't wait for anyone to tell you what you need to learn. I've seen this a bunch here. Some of my old dev team remembers me on leadership. Like, how can we not build this culture of curiosity and get people to seek what they need? If you're waiting for your boss to tell you what you need, you know, they might have one thing, but you just get interested in something. It could be anything. Luckily, the days of Jess bringing you the Sunday paper, we've got so much information available to us. You can literally study anything, and it doesn't have to be a formal study. It doesn't have to be a book. It doesn't have to be, I mean, you got podcasts, you got whatever. And so for me, at any one time, I'm probably reading multiple books. I have a coach. I'm mentoring somewhere between 2 to 5 people. I'm reading, I get higher ed articles, I get GovTech articles, I get startup articles, I get whatever. And so you can just always be looking at the stuff. And if you create a habit of following your interests, it doesn't take up that much time. You schedule the ones that are meetings in, you find a time of a day that you want to read or consume, and then you just put it to practice. And if you have a diverse set of interests, it really pays dividends. So back to summary, just don't be waiting for someone to tell you need to learn something. Just find a way to build a habit that you're the curious one and explore.
Wow, terrific. And so with that, I'm going to pivot a little bit onto our next question, and we're going to talk a little bit more about enterprise technology, and in particular, your work as part of the alignment organization. Now, my middle school teacher, Miss O'Connell, she used to say, you can't use a word in its own definition. And so as a special challenge, talk about your work in alignment without using the word align. And so talk more about how does this support enterprise technology, and what do you see as kind of the vision there? Chris, you haven't started one yet. Do you want to?
Okay,
there
sure.
You go.
Well, so IT strategy is an interesting beast. Strategy in itself is an interesting beast. You can read a book about it, but the way you apply it to an organization is going to be different depending on where that organization is. We're the most innovative school 8 years in a row, so clearly something's going right, something's strategic. We have one of the smartest, we heard, I think, references Dr. Crow's brain a bunch of times today. But I would argue, and hopefully this isn't being recorded, that ASU is still not really a strategic organization. We don't exactly have a process by which a strategy is formalized and put out there. So it makes it tough for us in IT we're basically a responsive organization right now. So, I mean, Lev's done an amazing job of following a model to elevate IT and getting a seat at the table. He's now part of one of President Crow's key working groups through the work that, if anyone went to the decision mindset, we heard Kerry Robinson and Warwick and others talk about how we're now using our data to inform the EVPs of the different enterprises, how to think differently about projects for prioritization. But in terms of strategy, we still don't necessarily have that guiding star, other than you go out there. I think there's like 6 or 7 buckets of some things Michael Crow's put out there for things we need to move towards. But for us in IT, when I read those, it's a pretty long stretch of how we see our technology roadmaps, our technology work fitting there. So what I'm hoping to make happen is find ways we truly understand deeply what academic enterprise, public enterprise, knowledge enterprise, learning enterprise are trying to do, things that the other supporting functions are trying to do, and how can we get a 1 + 1 = 3 attitude where we can do more. We can make things more relevant. We can make things reused. We can simplify and get better outcomes in ways that we can all see ourselves in that work.
Expertly done as our first contestant to not use align in the discussion of enterprise technology alignment. Well done, Chris.
Align.
Oh, Our audience has to keep them honest.
We use the past tense of aligned versus aligned.
All of its derivatives, yes.
Just checking.
Yes, no, we've danced around it for sure, but who's next up on the don't say a line?
I'll go for it. There's a really tremendous hunger at ASU for people development. And I have a thing that I focus on a lot, which is, are we serving people? Or are we creating prosperity? And are we doing well for the planet? And ASU is pretty good, especially with our charter, I think. At the prosperity, look at how ASU's survived amidst so many universities really having a struggle. And we're very good at social embeddedness and giving back to the communities and the planet. But our big area for growth is people. So I know there's a hunger, and I can see a lot of like portals to go through. And I'm going to be inviting you to come, because we've prototyped many things at the old UTO that I think many parts of ASU are going to be able to use. And we really need a lot of people that kind of have the heart for this work.
Excellent. Getting into heart. Who would like to follow?
So many of you know that I've worn many hats over my long career here. You know, my career has been so long that my email is john@asu.edu. I also have the real Elvis as well at asu.edu. So if you want to try that, that will get to me as well. That's a true story. But I think the thing, like right now, my focus has really been, and thanks to Lev, is really around partnerships. And as you know, the investment that the state makes in ASU, it keeps on dwindling more and more every year. So we have to be very creative about how we get people to invest in the university. And you heard the great news this morning from Lev about, you know, winning this huge grant by him partnering with people of the community. And it's a long process to sort of get the confidence of local communities and our vendor partners to do something. But look what happens when that happens. And if you think about, I think 35 to 40 million of our IT budgets, enterprise technology budget, goes to vendors and vendors partners. Do we want that just to be a transactional type of relationship? Do we just want to pay our annual maintenance to Oracle, or do we want to really create a partnership? And so that's really what we've been focusing on. So we have a great partnership with Amazon, AWS for some. I'm going to invite everyone up to come to SkySong to see the innovation center that we have there. And I think what that does is that it builds out some more capacity for us. And when you think about ASU, we have a great value proposition. We have great brand recognition, 8 years in a row, #1 in innovation. You think about, we have world-class faculty and researchers out there. And I think one of the biggest things we have is really, besides everyone in this room around the talent of the technology, is our students. And having students being able to work on projects and, you know, be the solution of these vendor partners. Where is Bonnie? Somewhere in the room. Bonnie Wild. Where are you, Bonnie? So Bonnie and I are co-conspirators in crime, and we have, 2 years ago, we received a 7-figure contract with Apple, and that was really around the focus of the value proposition of student and having an impact in the community. And I think that's really what I'm focusing on. So, and I'm trying to not use the word, I won't say it.
Yeah, see, there you go. Well done, John. Expertly done. Donna?
Let's pick up the thread with the students, and, you know, kind of thinking about what Dr. Howard was talking about this morning in terms of all the activities across the enterprise that lead to the incredible enrollment numbers and outreach and our mission of access. Each of those creates we're at 140,000 students. They're kind of, some of you have heard me say this, there are my favorite security vulnerabilities. I kind of, talking to other CISOs in the Pac-12, and they all kind of our brows furrow when we talk about engineering schools. At 31,000 students in the engineering school, thinking of them bringing in their Raspberry Pis and being so clever. Anybody who was at backdoor and breaches, insider threats, like 31,000 students, that makes us bigger than most of the state schools that are out there. And that's just the engineering college. So it's an incredible opportunity to think about security and what that means across the enterprise, really working very deeply, and I think in some really creative ways, with folks at HIDA who are going to be approaching this from a very different perspective, who are going to be thinking about content creators and a very different kind of digital native approach. How cool. So I'm particularly excited about the ability to do that. And I think that kind of leads over to the other side of our work, and that's in digital trust. Students come here, and when they join, probably some high school guidance counselor said, you know, all of your economic data for yourself and your parents and everything that's interesting about you, you should just hand over to this school and you should go to school. And they go, okay, and hand over all of our data. The vast majority of them have never heard that they can redact data on some of that. So then when somebody comes back and asks for data on residency, that there's data they could redact. Like they just trust us. From that very first moment, they trust us. And then we get to like hold that thread and be the custodians of it. So I'm pretty excited as we think about Ed Plus or the learning enterprise or this really expanding opportunity for us to work with so many learners, that we get to be that first place where they get to have a truly digitally trusted experience.
That's very good, because we can really continue to pull on that thread of students as we kind of head into our kind of final question here for our panel, which is really kind of thinking about how do you imagine a future of enterprise technology? So this morning we heard Lev talk to, what is enterprise technology? And we got to hear Dr. Howard talk about how does this position within the ASU public enterprise? And as you think about the role that students play in helping us continue to advance and to innovate, where do you see that future for enterprise technology?
I started, so I'll jump. Although we might have skipped Jess.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's totally fine. Okay,
We're running short on time. It's all good.
Double your time on this.
just can work that in. I'm going to jump to the breakout session at a table that's now a completely new collection of folks, but it was at that table with Josh and Sandra and a couple others, recognizing something that that Chris said this morning about how other universities think of agencies, state agencies, as opposed to public enterprises. And I loved the conversation happening at that table where they were really asking, hey, how would we approach our financial work? How would we report our data? Like, how would we think differently if we weren't a state agency? I thought that just the fact that that was happening this morning at a table within like 2 hours of Dr. Howard talking to us, it's that kind of reframing of what we are that's that I think is really exciting about this vision.
John, do you want to go? I'll give you the last word. How about that?
Okay.
You want there you go.
Whatever you want. You're the man. You go. You tell me what to do.
What I think enterprise technology will be, I mean, this is a future that I would like to see, how we have greater alignment with our students. I think that there's going to be a very blurry line someday that we have all this student, all those talent, but they really need experience. And whether it's in IT or in culture or whatever that is, I just see that day happening where everyone questions the value of college. And I think the value of college will be our students getting experience in this group or working anywhere else around campus, whether it's in Hawaii and the projects, the projects we have there. I think that's going to be what I think the university needs to go in that direction.
Oh, terrific. Christine?
Everybody in technology across ASU is always saying human-centered digital experience.
Short and sweet, human-centered. Yeah.
This morning we heard Lev talk about Digital Equity Institute investment of almost $40 million. I think since Lev's been here, you doubled the IT budget. With that investment, I think we've now doubled the budget here. There is just so much space that's being created. And then when you combine that with what you heard Dr. Howard talk about with what an enterprise is, hopefully all of you will see yourselves in some way as an entrepreneur. And my vision that I know some share in here, we've been working on some things, and Lev's got a few irons on the fire that can make this happen as well, is that we can actually be that entrepreneurial spark to not only serve our mission, our charter, but to actually get some of this intellectual property to move out of the university and become a software company of sorts to serve constituents just like us. And if you read Dr. Crow's Fifth Wave book, he literally talks about that the best enterprises will be doing exactly that and giving the right to be an entrepreneur, to bring out the best in what they offer, to serve that common purpose that you hear him talking about. And I think we, as IT experts and people that are refining our craft, can actually do that. So that's my vision.
And Chris, are you giving everyone permission? Lev, are we giving everyone permission to do that? Absolutely, right.
Within guidelines, I think. Just don't go run out and do it. You
Darn.
can find there are some interesting legal paths. So a group in here knows that there's one that I got to talk to 17 different lawyers about, and we still got the okay. But a lot of work happened.
Oh, kindling that entrepreneurial spirit. Now, Jess, I'm sorry I missed you on the last round, but
I can say a line then.
I am thrilled to have you, put the exclamation point on this panel. You get the last word. You have a unique perspective as you look into the future.
I do have a unique perspective.
So as you think about this, and you look ahead, how do you see it?
So first off, I think this is super exciting for ASU. Enterprise Technology, as we announce this brand, this is actually a very pivotal brand for us because to the students, to tie it back to the whole theme here, we need to be seen as the universal technology solutions team. It's not anymore are we going to focus on the Barrett IT people or the WP Carey IT people or the Fulton School of Engineering or KE or on and on and on and on and on. We are enterprise technology. That means we are the technology solutions for everybody at ASU, regardless of what department you are in. Super important that we embrace that brand because it is your opportunity and your ticket to open doors to conversations that you were never allowed to have before. It breaks down all of the silos, and that's what we need to show our students, is that we are unified. We are one enterprise technology, and we are all here for them to help them achieve their dreams. That's why we're here. So this is an exciting time, and that's the future that I see for enterprise technology, and I'm very inspired to take that with me to Vanderbilt.
Congratulations, Jess. Thank you very much. A round of applause for our panel today.